usual, we had technical difficulties because, that's just life. I was on someone's webinar right before this, and she was having technical difficulties with Zoom. Um, so regardless, even though we're live on Sadiq's stream right now and on mine, I'm still going to do the introduction and the hosting because this was supposed to be originally on my stream, but Instagram wasn't letting us allow Sadiq to join. And it's interesting because I just got an invitation expired notice
Really?
on this invitation, yet we're still here. So I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Anyhow, right? Who, like, who knows what's happening? We don't, but we're here. And I am so happy to be here with Sadiq Abubakar, who I have a story about. Okay, so we have an origin story, right, that involves a mutual client. And I kind of want to tell that story before I introduce you, simply because I think it's a very good networking and connection story that people should, listen to. So Sadiq and I share a client. We probably share more than one client, but we share a particular client who can be an extraordinarily giving person. And one day, she had to late cancel her appointment with me at Real Pilates, and because she was paying for it anyway, she sent Sadiq, who happened to have the hour free. Right. So that was like a confluence of things because you're always solidly booked. I'm always solidly booked. And suddenly there was this hour and Sadiq came in and we did some Pilates. He really enjoyed it. I loved teaching him, started following each other on Instagram, kind of stayed in touch, as it were. Fast forward, we're still in touch. We get through kind of the Black Lives Matter experience. We realize we're somewhat like-minded in our approach to politics and social justice. We also realize that we probably have people in common who can help each other, and also people in our networks. So when I saw that Sadiq was starting actually a new website, a new service called Davigate, which I'm very excited about, which is helping, basically assisting new immigrants to the United States with their journey, looking at sponsors, looking at attorneys, looking at all these things. I immediately thought of people in my network who deal with financing for organizations doing social justice, who deal with investments and other things, and was immediately like, oh, Sadiq needs to talk to these people, because whether it works out or not, these are people with money who are in the same kind of situation. And I really want to make those connections, and let's see how we can help each other. Right. And you guys know I'm all about connection and helping each other, because that's how we all move forward. So Sadiq has just a ridiculous background, original background in finance, actually. And did I see that you came here originally? You were an intern with Tory Burch. Yeah. Yep. And then did some work on Wall Street. Then you were brought over to Dogpound. We're looking at doing some work on their app side, on their financial side. Ended up doing some training, enjoying that training, having the clients enjoy training with you. What I always love about your work, Sadiq, is that you don't use a lot of apparatus, and that you give people kind of body weight work and yourself that kind of work that helps people feel and function better wherever they are without needing a whole lot of stuff with them, which really lends itself to online. I'm sure, always helpful. And now he is a founder at Davigate. Now, you've also done other things in between. I know you're also working on a fitness app. Like, you've just got tons of stuff going on, plus a family and children. So let's just start with kind of the beginning of the story. Talk to me about the finance into fitness move.
Yeah, Linda, thank you so much. That was very kind intro there. And I appreciate being on here with you. Obviously, we've chatted a few times and about this, and I'm glad it's finally happening. But my story really it's one of just curiosity. I haven't been here, having arrived in the U.S. Since 2009 from Nigeria to a basketball program, and decided not to go down that road. I learned very quickly that the path to playing professionally wasn't really one I wanted. Um, so I was immediately exploring what my career journey was going to be, and that led me to Wall Street, and went to Hamilton College, small liberal arts school, incredible school, but I ended up working at Deutsche Bank. Now I was an international student and I needed to be sponsored. So as you're well aware now, right, you can't just be here. You have to be sponsored either if you're a student by your school, if you're an employee by your employer. So I began working at Deutsche Bank as an analyst. I initially was looking more into investment banking from my prior internships I've had on Wall Street before the full-time offer at Deutsche Bank. But then my entrepreneurial curiosity had already kicked in at that point, and I knew there was zero chance I was going to be starting out on Wall Street as an investment banker and also working on a fitness on a tech startup. At that time, it was my best friend's company called Twist. It was an events-based dating app. So I needed something that would buy me time to work on this while I was working on Wall Street. So I quickly changed course and moved from investment banking to global transactions banking, where I did that for about 18 months. It was a remarkable experience. I cherished every piece of it, but I always knew I wanted to move on to building. So I left that after about 18 months to 2 years to build a fashion tech company in Nigeria called Custom True, which was meant to actually help organize Nigerian weddings, mostly our Nigerian weddings. We have this massive weddings, and all the guests are kind of expected to buy fabrics and make something of it and come to the weddings in uniform. So I was doing that, but at the same time, my best friend from college was the founding PR at Dogpound. Granted, I'd always been in fitness, right? Because my background, basketball, athletics has always been something I know it's just inherently part of me. Before leaving Wall Street, I was wondering what can I do that can allow me to earn a living without the pressure of surviving and needing to go back and get a job or be pressed to raise money when I don't have to or don't need to at that time. And I thought, everyone always comes to me for workouts. Send me stuff. I think physically also, I'm lucky that the first everyone sees me and just thinks fitness or sports or athletics. So I decided, okay, training will be a good way to do that, where I thought it was going to be the most mindless job where I can earn a living and then I can devote my brain power to working on. And I was so wrong. But anyway, long story short, I got to Dogpound intentionally to help grow the business because my best friend Bradley was like, "Yo, you love fitness? Here's this gym that's taking off. Come check it out." So during the interview, I quickly realized it's a startup, internally chaotic, but obviously amazing product, amazing company. Externally, it looks like this well-oiled machine. So eventually, I just realized the best option for me would be to be a trainer because they had already been pushing me to go towards training. They see me do my workout, and they've been wanting me to do that. And I also realized I needed to learn more. I needed to meet people, and there's no better way than to spend that hour with the niche of clientele that we had, or still have, than that hour. And what do you do in that hour? Talking to people, all the venture capitalists, all the, high net worth individuals, celebrities. What do you do in that hour? It's going to be the most boring hour if you don't engage, right? So that was my journey to becoming a personal trainer. And I would say I was a Dogpound for about 3 years, and it was a business school for me, if I may, because you have all nature of clientele that come in and you engage, you talk about business, talk about startups, all sorts of stuff. And talk about metrics, performance, everything you can think of, and that's really every hour an hour. And it was a remarkable experience. So that's sort
So
of my.
what that sounds like to me, Sadiq, is you were very intentional about moving into the personal training, about where you were going to do it, about the kind of clientele that you wanted to work with and be around. And a lot of fitness trainers and Pilates teachers and yoga teachers don't quite get that. That there is, like, basically, if you can serve those high-end clients and serve them well, you are going to learn a lot, because these people didn't get where they are because they're idiots. Right? You're going to learn a lot about life. You're going to learn a lot about money. You're going to learn a lot about how people run a business, right? And how they make money and how they take care of themselves and their families in order to do that. And if you're not working with that level of client, you're not going to have that experience. So you have to be intentional about that. Absolutely. And frankly, if you're working with that level of client that also gives you enough money and enough learning, that if you want to do stuff on the side for free for other people, for communities who need it, you can. Totally. Because you got something to give.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. When people reach out to me now for advice, I playfully say, figure out how to get into a gym that has the nature of people that you need to meet and work there. And I mean it, because for me, so let me just paint the picture, right? So you have, it's an hour, a client comes in, oh, how's it going? You have the normal chat, they warm up and talk, right? Because it would become the longest hour if you don't engage, right? So it's more than just, do your reps, but you also have to communicate socially. And, when I have questions I ask, but oftentimes it just picks up organically, and you realize you'd have learned, how they got to where they are, what their routines are, what problems they address. They give you feedback. You share your own project you're working on. They give you feedback. That's an hour that these are people, if I were to go after them on my own, probably through 3 or 4 degrees of separation, it could be weeks before I can get time, if I even ever do, right? But in this scenario, they put me on the edge to deliver an incredible experience, because these are high-level clientele. But more than anything, I'm also absorbing so much where I'm learning. So I kind of devoted that 3 years to just, I think of it as a business school. Most PA's family are wondering, why are you a personal trainer? Because they don't really dignify. It's not that dignified in that space, strangely enough. Why are you leaving Wall Street to become a personal trainer? Not minding that for me, I knew exactly what value I was getting, and there was a plan behind it, and I did not become so into it now that it's a way of life. It's so important now, and it's exciting to see how everyone is coming on to really get into this habit and nature of being fit. So that's kind of how that worked out for me.
Well, for me, we were talking earlier before we got on live about the time that I had in the Caribbean, and I spent 4 of those years, right, running the Pilates and fitness at Parrot Key by Como, which is, an A-list private island resort. You probably have had clients who went there or may own homes there. Who knows? But what that taught me, over the course of 4 years was it wasn't just about teaching Pilates to a high-end population. I had that on the main line of Philly, where I had my studio. But what it taught me was the service level that people expect when they're paying. Some folks, if you're renting a large property, you're spending $25,000 a day on room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you have to think if I was going for a 10-day trip, and I was spending $25,000 a day just on room, not food and beverage, not spa, nothing else. What service level would I expect for my, $350,000 trip?
Absolutely.
And I learned what that is. I learned what that looks like from the back of house. And that was so important for me moving forward, right? Because obviously there is a service level that people expect at a certain price point.
Totally.
Now you're kind of shifting a little, right? You've left Dogpound. You are still teaching private clients, I know. You are working on an app. Like two major things right now is your app on the fitness side, and Davigate,
Correct.
which I know is, yes, a business, but is also a business that in a very huge way gives back,
Yeah.
right? And honors your place in the United States as an immigrant,
Yeah.
um, and allows you to literally help other people who may not have as clear of a path, right? Like you said, you had the basketball path.
Totally.
So they were like, yo, you play good basketball, you come over and we'll deal with that. And then you had to shift that a little bit afterwards from the to the student, from the athlete, student visa, work visa,
Yeah.
and go from there. But now you're starting your own stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the path I took, and I think that's the path a lot of trainers have been trying to take, especially over the past year and a half. And some are really struggling to figure out how to do that. Now, I think a piece of it is networking and connection, which is how, you and I started. A piece of it is being extraordinarily strategic about where you're working and who you're working with, and really looking at what you want from these relationships moving forward, and know that these relationships stay. Like, you can actually, there's clients I haven't worked with in 10 years who I'm working with twice a week now.
Yep.
This happens. People stay with you. They're like, oh, my back hurts now, and who else would I go to? Because you helped me the last time. And I was good for a decade, which is awesome. So here we are. So talk to me a little bit, Sadiq, with maybe some kind of tips on kind of being open, on forging your own path, and on really, having ideas of wanting to give back, and how other trainers can look at kind of forging ahead on their paths.
Yeah. I would say, obviously looking back on my own journey, it's the first one is just openness and willingness to just put yourself out there. And it's so important because I think most people who want to do something are thinking about it, right? That they have these ideas, but there's always that paralysis around where to start, how to go about it, if at all, to they even get to the point where they can actually flush out the details of what it is that they're interested in going into and exploring. So my advice really would be, take time to really understand or think through what it is that you are interested in or might be interested in. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have all the roadmaps. Because I do feel sometimes it feels like before taking the move, you want to have it all figured out. And if that's the case, no one will ever do anything, right? We're
imperfect action. Imperfect action is better than no action.
100%. We're still all trying to figure it out. And granted, you can see the progress you make once you start. So the first thing I would recommend is actually sitting down with yourself and really thinking through what it is. If you already have ideas that you want to explore, like flush it out a little bit, and talk to people, share as much as you can. There's this notion that people want advice, but they don't want to share what they want advice on because they're afraid someone will steal the idea, and you know what I mean. And all people will judge them, And when the truth is, I personally believe the world wants you to succeed. That's just how I feel. The universe wants you to succeed, and all the energies, all the pieces that need to come together are there. But you have to actually be out there and figure it out, and let the world help you figure it out by putting yourself out there. So that's the starting point, but it takes constant, consistent effort, right? You have to be on top of it. You can't be so consumed by what it is that you're doing now that you're letting this vision that you have, or ideas that you have, fall to the side. And you also cannot also be bothered by how other people are moving. Everyone's got their own timeline.
Right.
So it's easy to feel like, oh, you have this idea. Someone that might be talking to you about something, end up doing something in a short time. You don't know how long they've been sitting on that idea, how long they've been nurturing it. And with what I know now, it takes time to build anything good. It takes a very long time. So the earlier you start working on it slowly, bit by bit, it will start to take shape. But it would also help you move strategically, right? Because then you start to think about, who do you need to know? Who do you need to meet? Who do you need advice from? What kind of spaces you need to be at? You start to ask those questions, and slowly you start to see yourself actually move. Like I said, my case in point, right? I got to Dogpound not because I really was thinking, I want to go become a personal trainer. I became a personal trainer not because I thought about wanting to be a trainer. I just went, an opportunity opened up, and I saw the nature of people, the clientele, the people, and I'm like, wow, I want to know what's going on in this person's head. I want to know how they get where they are.
I want to talk to this person for an hour or 2 or 3 every single week. And that's what people don't seem to understand, is that you are having these conversations. And if you're in a room with an up-leveled crowd, you are going to have up-leveled conversations.
Absolutely.
And get advice that actually works for you. I mean, and you can't be scared. I mean, a lot of it's scary. A lot of it's like, I know you've got an investor meeting coming up this afternoon. Like, those things can be scary. Those things can be nerve-wracking, but you do them, right? And if they're scary and nerve-wracking, you get coaching around your mindset, and you still go do them.
Totally. I mean, I'll tell you this. Since I've been doing this now, what I realize is you actually start to welcome those scenarios, those instances where you're afraid, because you come to identify there's a reason why you're afraid, and between you and that fear is exactly what you're looking for, right? So you have to find a way to overcome that, and the only way to do it is actually just go right through it and figure out what it is that you need to get done, or what you need to execute that's causing you fear. And as soon as you do it, you have that moment of growth. That's where you learn. That's where you get results, and that's where you make progress. So it's sort of like you just have to start and just keep nibbling at it. Keep doing whatever you can, but consistently. And again, it's not going to be like that. You're going to fall off at some point, but once you have that vision flushed out, you're going to keep working at it, and people will come in to help. But how can anyone help you if no one knows what you need help with?
Exactly, or what you're doing. Like, don't worry about other people. This is what I tell my Pilates teacher clients in my Pilates Teacher Mastermind VIP program all the time. It's like, stay in your lane, do your thing. And frankly, if you're in a super crowded space, that's awesome, because you know what's not profitable? Spaces that aren't crowded. Like, I mean, health and fitness, always a profitable space, because so far no one's found the magic pill that's going to make everybody healthy and fit without needing to exercise or eat well. So here we go. And the space is super crowded, but that's because there's a whole lot of customers out there. So when you have that brilliant idea and you go online and you look it up and you realize nobody's doing it, like absolutely nobody, then it's probably not profitable.
I won't waste my time there.
Right? Why would anyone waste their time there? So it's like, I have people who are starting, I want to do this.
Unless you're Elon Musk, where you have a lot of resources to deploy there to figure out to just play with random idea. But if no one is doing it and you're just getting started, well, I don't know if I would go jump right in. There's a reason why no one is doing it. Maybe there's nothing there, but those are all the process you have to go through to really figure out if there's an opportunity to build something important, something that solves problems, and you can actually compensate or reward it for it.
Now, if you're a trainer in the health and fitness space and you're not making any money, that's a whole nother story, because quite frankly, this space is crowded, yet there are millions and billions of clients who want what we have to sell. So then it becomes a matter of making yourself visible and of serving your clients really, really well, so that they want to continue to come. So, there's a whole issue of how you place yourself in the market and all of that. You and I, in a way, have been very lucky. Not lucky because it's intentional. See, this is what we do. We sit there and we think, oh, we're lucky. Or those other people were lucky. We're not lucky. We intentionally chose to work with high level clients. We intentionally chose to charge a lot of money for our services. We intentionally chose who we wanted to work with and how we wanted to move forward. And if you look at anybody in any space, people like to say, well, Mark Zuckerberg was lucky. No, he wasn't. He had a really good idea when he was in college. He worked on that idea. He brought that idea to fruition. He kept scaling that idea, getting more investors for that idea. And now we have Facebook, love it or hate it. We have it. Half of you are watching on it. So,
and what you also don't hear before that is the number of apps he's built before that, right? The number of small apps he worked on. So it's a process.
That failed. That did nothing until this one, right? Yep. And that's not luck. That's maybe a tiny bit of luck, but that's like a whole lot of hard work and intentionally putting yourself in the space of other people. There's been a lot of news stories lately I'm seeing about here's the high-level summer camps that the, wealthy CEOs go to. And I'm thinking, no, they're intentionally going to group meetings where they can relax, but be among other people who are doing business at the same level so that they can network, talk about their stuff, and do their thing. It's exactly, frankly, what most fitness trainers and Pilates teachers don't do. We don't talk to each other. We view everybody else as horrible competition, and we don't support one another. And when we see people like at high levels in other businesses getting together, networking, and supporting one another, we're like, how dare those rich CEOs go to summer camp?
Right?
Right? Like, seriously. Whereas they're really just going to network and powwow and get away. And there's a lot of hatching of new projects going on there. There is, because that's when that happens. Once again, the intentional, I don't even know what word that is, intentional about who you're in the room with.
Totally. You have to break. There's no question about it. If you're not intentional, what happens is you get thrown everywhere, right? And you have no direction. And you come to realize you've wasted time. Actually, that's how you get lost, right?
Right.
Because when you lose that direction, you're lost, and you feel like you're doing something, things are not working out, or you feel like you're not really sure what to do, when the reason is because there's really no direction and there's no intention behind the things you do. So to your point, even the way I apply training, and the example I give is, so from all the high-level performers I've trained, CEOs, athletes, celebrities, models, they treat their fitness experiences and life as something so important that propels them in everything else they do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's part of the self-care. It's part of if you drive for a living, you get your car serviced often, right?
Yeah.
Because you need the car. If whatever it is that you do, you're a bike messenger, you're delivering on DoorDash and whatever else, you make sure your bike is in really good shape because without it, you can't really work. And frankly, without our bodies working well, and I just had this discussion yesterday when I was doing a training with another friend from Australia, Anne-Marie Cross, and she and I were discussing the fact that, even Joseph Pilates used to say, you can take time off from work to go get your car serviced, but you don't want to take a half an hour to do an exercise routine that might make you feel better, like forever.
I actually, I spent time, I did a study on this, informally, obviously. Most of the top performers I train, when they're consistent, the stories are consistent, crushing deals, like crushing projects. And when I don't see them for 2 or 3 weeks, they come back, that first period, it's the opposite. Oh my God,
Interesting.
I'm so stressed. Life sucks, right? All over the place. And so there's definitely correlation, right? And studies have been done all over. The more you exercise, the more you deliberate about your own fitness life and work towards it, the better everything else really works out for you. So even for as trainers, it's very easy to get so busy, either seeking opportunities or working, that you also don't plan on other things that are important, or how to grow the business. If you don't have that many clients, how do you get more clients? And get paralyzed by the space that you're in. But that's, again, to the point of being intentional and deliberate. That's because there's not much intentionality that goes into how you navigate it. Maybe there's also pride of asking others who are doing it, how they're doing it. I've had a good amount reach out to me asking questions around, they just got started. I'm training at this gym and I train certain clientele. How can they get to that level? And everyone is happy to share for the most part. People who have succeeded, honestly,
Yeah.
are very excited to share and have other people, experience the same success that they have. So there's this, where the pride comes in is where I don't really understand. But again, I think it comes down to having that deliberate desire and intentionally going after what you want, talking to people, put yourself in spaces that you're going to get recognized or at least get some benefit, and also be patient.
Oh, patience. Patience is key. Um, and remember too that guys, you don't have any business worrying about what's going on in other people's brains. So when you send out an email and nobody responds, or you put a new product out and nobody buys it right away, don't sit there thinking, what are they doing? First of all, remember that you probably tend not to buy on the first email anyway, because most people don't. And, spend some time intentionally getting to know the folks who you want to be your clients. Isn't
Yeah.
that interesting? Like, figure out who it is that you want to work with, who you want to serve, and then go about talking to those people and serving those clients well. And I think, Sadiq, at the end of the day, that's what your story is about. Your story is about, being of service. I feel like, you came here, you saw what the basketball with, the pro ball situation and the college situation was like. And you were like, not so much. That's not the space I want to be in. I'm not giving. I'm not serving. I'm not sure what this is about, but it's not something I want to do. And then you were like, okay, finance. But interesting that you chose analysis versus trading, right? Because it can be equally as lucrative, frankly. I mean, your bonuses are bonuses, but it's a different way of looking at it, because you're kind of then in the back end really deciding what markets the larger bank is going to be looking at, right? What markets, how things are performing, what should start to be performing better in varying spaces. So then, you start to get a little strategy thinking there,
Absolutely.
and then you brought that right out into the fitness world in a very strategic way, looking at the clients you wanted to get in front of in terms of, meeting of the minds as well as the bodies. And then moved that now into the service, work of assisting new immigrants to the U.S. who are looking at getting their student visas or their work visas. I love the idea of Davigate. It is it's basically bringing together attorneys and schools and sponsors and giving potential immigrants a clearer path to find ways to legally come to the United States and make this country better.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. The only thing I'll just adjust is, for now, we're looking at those who are already here, those who are
Okay.
here, and it's such a complicated, chaotic, and messy process. When you are an international student or a visa holder, I mean, just for a second, think about it. Like, if you travel abroad, even let's say for leisure, travel to Spain, Ibiza, Greece, anywhere, it's fun, it's exciting, it's different, it's new. but that's most likely because you're only spending a week or two, right?
Right.
You now have to spend 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and you start to figure out, okay, how do you get things done? What do you need help with? Who do you know that can help you? So you have to rely on other people. And the challenge when it comes to students and really employees that are sponsored by companies is that oftentimes there's that mismatch where the student is relying on the school to do everything. And then from an employee standpoint, that you rely on the employer to do it. And there's so much noise out there. So it's hard to find reliable resources and support, let alone the restrictions you have. And it becomes a
Right.
critical point. So
And there are always, I just know what it was like, working in Turks and Caicos, right? Where there were just different rules. Like if you changed jobs, you had to spend 7 days off island and out of the country in between work permits.
Yeah.
Right. Like just little things like that will really kind of screw you in the end. It's why I always tell teachers and trainers to be very wary of those travel to teach, like go in on a tourist permit and then teach at the hotel that you're staying at for free in exchange. I'm like, yeah, all you need is one hotel employee who has a friend in immigration who happens to be pissed off, and you are now never going to that country again because you'll be on that list. And I see it here because I live right near immigration.
I mean,
so I'm dealing with folks getting there.
Think about that for a second, right? So in that scenario, you just might never go in there again. But if you're an international student, right now I'm actually working with about 12 students whom I've been talking to about some of the things they're going to face that didn't do anything about it. Obviously, you don't know what you don't know, right? Until you're in that place. When the truth is, there are things you could have done if you are aware, or if someone tells you that by the time you actually face the issues, you have options and you have scenarios to navigate it. But the problem with this particular demographic is if you end up messing up, you actually might be in a place where your life is completely screwed, right? You can't go home for most of us, right? Given where you're coming from, there's not opportunity. Mm-hmm. And after years of working and spending time here and learning, you go back, you may realize your skill is not that valuable. I mean, you have doctors coming here, right? Because you are doctors at the hospitals to train. What do? You can't afford to create new hospital, right? Build the hospital. So you're not people that are stuck. You're stuck because you're out of status or you did something wrong. That's just because of timing or because no one tells you how to navigate it. And now either you're here illegally and you see a cop, it's a problem. You can't do anything. Having a bank, basically everything, life becomes very complicated. So what I'm building is actually something that's to say, okay, hey, here are things you can do to avoid that. And if you find yourself in that situation, this is how you can navigate it by bringing the resources together in a comprehensive way. All the stakeholders that you need to help you succeed and help you achieve success. Because it's already hard in of itself, leaving home and leaving everything behind to come here. So I think it will make sense to have it a little bit easier for you to get through that journey. Granted, it's still going to be competitive, right? It's not like we're not just handing you jobs. It's like you still have to work for it. So that's really what inspired me, because I mean, it's my story, it's my journey, and I have a very good understanding of how that works. And I've been doing this. I've been informally mentoring since I've been here. I'm just now building Davigate to scale that experience entirely and make it easier, leveraging technology, because some of it is very redundant and chaotic when it doesn't need to be. So with technology, we can streamline and automate a lot of the processes you go through and make it a lot more affordable, but also more efficient and effective.
And again, it comes back to mentoring, to networking, and to serving.
Absolutely.
That's really what it comes down to. And I want everybody to remember that we really don't give a shit how much of a celebrity trainer you think you are. We're still in the service business.
Totally.
And we are still here to serve people. And I feel like that's a piece of it that actually has gone missing. I was talking to somebody last night because you and I both know that there's a whole market of like nasty trainers, right? We know those people. We know some of their names. And those are the ones who yell at you if you come into class late, or if you like stop doing something and get a sip of water for a second because you're tired and about to drop, and they yell at you from the stage, or they make you move and not be in the front row or two, depending on where you are, because, you might not look good for everybody.
Yeah.
And, what I have to say to those trainers is basically, fuck you. And
Absolutely.
we're here to serve people and help them feel and function better. And that's like not a situation I would pay for, or deal with. And what I so love about you, Sadiq, is you are always looking at that service aspect, and you can, and I keep wanting, pounding this into my clients and the people who watch me and listen, that we can make money in fitness. We can make money as coaches and mentors in whatever space we want. You do it in fitness. Now you're also adding in a monetized way of doing it for new immigrants to the United States. And that the more you serve and the more intentionally you go about, again, being in the rooms with the right people, connecting with the clients who you can serve well, and speaking to those people, the better off you're going to be in your business, the more
100%.
your business will be able to serve you, right? Because
Look,
I'm a big believer in our businesses serving us. We forget that sometimes, that our businesses should be serving us. Like, my
yeah,
business should do something for me. It should allow me to live a life that I want to live and serve my clients happily and be a happy human being and go away once in a while and save some money.
and
My
it's
business should do that for me.
it's fulfilling. Like when people now when peers ask me, wonder why do you leave Wall Street to go be a trainer? I tell them, look, when you start out, how much do you make an hour on Wall Street? Like, how much do you make an hour? If you break it down, you probably be earning a whole lot more in this space if you're good at it. If you apply the same effort that you'd apply in a job like that here,
Right.
you do well better. But even more so, it's so fulfilling to hear clients, right, tell you how important you are to them. I have clients who basically the entire COVID period, they spend more time than they spend with their entire families. And every hour counts, and you come to realize, wow, okay, it's not just telling them to do the reps, the 10 push-ups, whatever they're doing. It's so much more. They bring a lot more to you, and you come to, and if you feed off of each other that way, right? So for me, like when I'm having a terrible day, I know I get one client and that changes.
Right.
Because one, I'm required to be that person for the client. And then in return, that changes my whole mood. It changes my whole dynamic. My whole day shifts.
Because you become that person.
Exactly. So,
and you're like, wait, I'm that person, right? It reminds you of who you actually are. And then you can continue to show up as just more of who you are. I mean, I'm kind of a firm believer that, us having enjoyable experiences in our lives and enjoyable connections is how the universe experiences itself. So basically, as you said earlier, everybody is waiting to help, right? Because good experience is what kind of the universe wants. And the way the universe has that experience is actually through us having them. So, it's good for everybody. And then it works right into that flow of receiving and giving and receiving and giving. And so many of us give and have a hard time receiving.
yeah,
And, I think what we've talked about today kind of covers all of that.
I agree.
So I am actually going to let you go, Sadiq, because you have an important meeting coming up in less than an hour. So when you save the Instagram live to your IGTV, just tag me and I'll share that.
Okay. And I'm
So we'll
sorry it didn't work out, but I promise we'll do this again. And everything is all good to go.
All right.
So good
Bye,
to see you.
Sadiq. And just hang out on Restream for a second after.
All right. Awesome.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.